Imagine a time long before the flood, when angels descended from heaven, took human wives, and their union gave birth to giants, creatures so powerful and corrupt that they threatened the very existence of humanity. This isn't just mythology, it's a part of ancient biblical and Jewish tradition. What did the mighty archangel Gabriel and the mysterious figure of Enoch do to bring judgment on these rebellious angels and their giant offspring, the Nephilim? You won't want to miss this deep dive into one of the Bible's most incredible stories, where divine messengers bring justice to a world on the brink of destruction. To fully appreciate the significance of the fallen angels and Nephilim, we must first explore the key biblical texts that introduce these mysterious beings. One of the most intriguing passages comes from Genesis 6:1-4. Though brief, this account opens a window into a cosmic rebellion that changed the course of human history. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, "My spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years." The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. Genesis 6:1-4. In this passage, the sons of God, a term often interpreted as referring to fallen angels, come to earth and intermarry with human women. The offspring of these unions are called Nephilim, which many interpret as giants. These beings, described as heroes of old and men of renown, were not merely oversized humans. They were powerful, fearsome, and ultimately part of the corruption that led to God's decision to flood the earth. There is considerable debate among scholars about who exactly the sons of God were. While some interpretations suggest they were the descendants of Seth, most ancient Jewish and Christian traditions hold that these were indeed angels, specifically a group of fallen angels who rebelled against God by overstepping their boundaries. In several other places in Scripture, the phrase sons of God is used to describe divine beings or angels. In the book of Job, 1:26, for instance, we read that the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. This phrase is consistently used to describe angels, which strengthens the interpretation that in Genesis 6, it refers to heavenly beings. These angels, often referred to as watchers in Jewish tradition, were created to serve God, to watch over and guide His creation. However, their rebellion came when they became infatuated with human women, crossed the heavenly boundaries, and took wives for themselves. Their actions were a defiant rejection of God's design for creation. This was more than just a sin of lust. It was a cosmic act of rebellion against the Creator. The offspring of this forbidden union were called the Nephilim, often interpreted as giants. The word Nephilim comes from the Hebrew root meaning to fall, suggesting that these beings were not only physically gigantic, but also morally fallen. They were the product of an unnatural and defiled union, and their very existence represented the corruption of God's creation. The Nephilim were described as heroes of old and men of renown. This suggests that they were not only giants in size, but also figures of immense power and influence. In ancient times, these kinds of individuals were often revered, seen as godlike warriors. However, from God's perspective, they were part of the increasing wickedness on the earth, a symbol of how far humanity had strayed from His plan. These beings, half angelic, half human, brought chaos and violence to the world. Their unnatural strength and power contributed to the growing corruption that led God to make one of the most drastic decisions in biblical history: the flood. In Genesis 6:5, we see the impact of their influence. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. The arrival of the Nephilim intensified the wickedness on earth, leading to a world full of violence, immorality, and rebellion against God. These giants were feared for their strength, and their influence led to further moral decay. Their presence became one of the key reasons God decided to cleanse the earth with the flood. saving only Noah and his family, who remained faithful. While Genesis gives us a brief glimpse of the fallen angels and Nephilim, the book of Gabriel and Enoch offers a much more detailed account. Although this text is not included in the canonical Bible for most Christian traditions, it was highly influential in ancient Jewish thought and early Christian theology. The book of Enoch expands on the story of the Watchers, the fallen angels, and their eventual punishment. Enoch, the seventh from Adam, plays a pivotal role in this drama. Described in Genesis 5:24 as a man who walked with God and was taken away without experiencing death, Enoch is portrayed in Gabriel and Enoch as a figure of immense spiritual authority. In the apocalyptic visions of Gabriel and Enoch, Enoch is taken up into heaven and given a special role as a mediator between God and the fallen angels. In the early chapters of Gabriel and Enoch, we see Enoch transported to the heavens, where he witnesses a heavenly court. This is not just a vision of God's throne room, it is a place where judgments are rendered. The fallen angels, who had corrupted themselves by mating with human women and teaching forbidden knowledge, are about to receive their punishment. The fallen angels, referred to as the Watchers in Gabriel and Enoch, are desperate. They understand the gravity of their actions and the severity of their impending punishment. Knowing that Enoch has been given access to the heavenly court, they beg him to intercede on their behalf. In a moment of profound irony, these angels, who were meant to watch over humanity, now find themselves pleading for a human to act as their mediator. God commissions Enoch to deliver a message of judgment to the Watchers. In Enoch, chapter 15 and 23, verse 7, God speaks directly to the fallen angels, reminding them of their high status before their rebellion and condemning their sinful actions. Why have you forsaken the high, holy, and eternal heaven, and lain with women, and defiled yourselves with the daughters of men, and taken to yourselves wives, and done like the children of earth, and begotten giants as your sons? God's message delivered by Enoch is one of finality. There is no hope for the Watchers. Their fate is sealed. They will be cast into the abyss, bound in chains, and imprisoned until the day of final judgment. The Nephilim, their offspring, will also be destroyed, and their spirits will become the demons that continue to plague humanity. Enoch's role in this drama is both fascinating and deeply symbolic. As a human who was taken up to heaven and granted special access to divine mysteries, Enoch serves as a bridge between the divine and human realms. He stands as a symbol of righteousness in a world gone mad with corruption. While the Watchers plead for mercy, Enoch's message is clear: justice will be done. While Enoch was tasked with delivering God's judgment to the fallen angels, the Archangel Gabriel played a much more active role in bringing about the destruction of the Nephilim. Gabriel, one of the most powerful angels in the Bible, is often seen as a messenger of God. However, in the book of Gabriel and Enoch, Gabriel's role is not merely that of a messenger. He is a divine warrior, charged with executing God's justice on the Nephilim. In 1 Enoch 10:9-10, God commands Gabriel to take action against the Nephilim. And to Gabriel said the Lord, "Proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, and against the children of fornication, and destroy the children of fornication and the children of the Watchers from amongst men. Send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle. For length of days shall they not have." Gabriel's mission is clear. He is to bring about the destruction of the Nephilim. These hybrid beings, born of the unholy union between angels and humans, have brought violence and chaos to the world. Their influence is so corrupting that their continued existence is a threat to humanity. Gabriel's task is to ensure that they are wiped out, bringing an end to their reign of terror. Interestingly, Gabriel is not commanded to destroy the Nephilim directly. Instead, God instructs Gabriel to send them one against the other, causing the Nephilim to destroy each other in battle. This method of destruction is significant. Rather than simply striking them down, God allows the Nephilim to experience the consequences of their own violence. The Nephilim, who had introduced unprecedented violence and warfare to the world, are now consumed by the very forces they unleashed. Their self-destruction is a fitting punishment for beings whose existence was marked by corruption and destruction. It is also a reminder of a common biblical theme, that sin often brings about its own punishment. In this case, the Nephilim's violent nature leads to their downfall. The book of 1 Enoch emphasizes that both the fallen angels and their offspring, the Nephilim, face severe and eternal judgment. While the Nephilim are destroyed in battle, their spirits continue to roam the earth as demons, afflicting humanity. The fallen angels, on the other hand, are bound in chains and imprisoned in the abyss, where they will remain until the final judgment. In Enoch 15:8-12, God explains the fate of the Nephilim spirits. The spirits of the giants, Nephilim, shall be like clouds, which shall oppress, corrupt, fall, contend, and bruise upon earth. They shall cause lamentation, and no food shall they eat, and they shall be thirsty. They shall hide themselves and rise up against the sons of men and against women, for they come forth during the days of slaughter and destruction. These spirits, no longer bound to physical bodies, become the demons that continue to afflict humanity. The Nephilim, whose physical strength once terrorized the earth, now exist as disembodied spirits, haunting the world and perpetuating evil. Their destruction in battle did not end their influence. Rather, it transformed them into a new kind of spiritual threat. The Watchers, meanwhile, are imprisoned in chains. In verse Enoch 10, 8-11-12, we read about their fate. And the Lord said unto Michael, Go, bind Semjaza, the leader of the Watchers, and his associates, who have united themselves with women, so as to have defiled themselves with them in all their uncleanness. And when their sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, till the day of their judgment and of their consummation. The Watchers' punishment is one of profound suffering. They are forced to witness the destruction of their offspring, the Nephilim, before being cast into the abyss. Their imprisonment is not temporary. It will last for 70 generations, until the final day of judgment, when they will face eternal punishment. The Nephilim and fallen angels may have been destroyed or imprisoned, but their influence persists. The Nephilim, though physically dead, live on as demonic spirits, continuing to corrupt and afflict humanity. In many ways, the spiritual battle that began with the rebellion of the Watchers continues today. The New Testament makes several allusions to this ongoing spiritual warfare. In Ephesians 6:12, Paul writes, For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. These spiritual forces of evil can be understood as the demonic spirits that originated with the Nephilim and the fallen angels. Though their physical forms were destroyed, the demonic influence of the Nephilim persists. These spirits, once giants on earth, now work in the spiritual realm to oppose God's purposes and afflict humanity. This understanding of demons as the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim offers a compelling explanation for the presence of evil spirits in the New Testament and beyond. To fully understand the significance of the book of Enoch and its portrayal of fallen angels, the Nephilim, in divine judgment, it's important to explore how these themes influenced later Jewish thought and early Christian theology. Although the book of Enoch is not part of the canonical Bible in most Christian traditions, it played a significant role in shaping ancient understandings of spiritual warfare, the nature of angels and demons, and the final judgment. Its influence is seen particularly in the New Testament, where key concepts about fallen angels, their punishment, and the role of divine beings reflect ideas that are prominent in Enoch. Fallen angels in the New Testament, echoes of Enoch. In the New Testament, we encounter direct references to fallen angels and their punishment, which bear striking similarities to the narrative found in the book of Enoch. One of the most notable references is found in 2 Peter 2:4, where Peter writes, For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but sent them to hell, putting them in chains of darkness to be held for judgment. This passage closely mirrors the narrative in Enoch, where the fallen angels are bound in chains and confined to the abyss until the day of final judgment. Peter's language and description of their punishment echo the imagery found in Enoch, suggesting that early Christians were familiar with these traditions and saw them as relevant to their understanding of spiritual realities. Similarly, in Jude 1:6, we read, And the angels who did not keep their positions of authority, but abandoned their proper dwelling, these he has kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for judgment on the great day. Jude's reference to angels who abandon their proper dwelling is a clear allusion to the fallen angels of Genesis 6 and Enoch. These angels who left their heavenly estate to pursue forbidden relationships with human women were judged by God and imprisoned in the abyss. Like Peter, Jude reinforces the idea that these fallen angels are awaiting a final judgment, a theme that is deeply rooted in the Enochic tradition. Another key influence of the Nephilim narrative from 1 Enoch is the understanding of demons as the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. In 1 Enoch 15:8-12, God declares that the spirits of the Nephilim, after their physical bodies are destroyed, will become evil spirits that torment humanity. The spirits of the giants and Nephilim shall be like clouds, which shall oppress, corrupt, fall, contend, and bruise upon earth. They shall cause lamentation, and no food shall they eat, and they shall be thirsty. They shall hide themselves and rise up against the sons of men and against women, for they come forth during the days of slaughter and destruction. This concept of demonic spirits being the remnants of the Nephilim offers a framework for understanding the role of demons in the New Testament. Throughout the Gospels, Jesus encounters and casts out demons, often described as malevolent spiritual beings that cause physical and mental suffering. These demons in the Enochic tradition are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, continuing to afflict humanity even after the destruction of their physical forms. For example, in Luke 8:26-39, Jesus encounters a man possessed by many demons who identify themselves as Legion. The demons plead with Jesus not to send them into the abyss, a clear reference to the place of imprisonment for fallen angels and evil spirits. This passage reflects the idea, rooted in 1 Enoch, that the abyss is a place of punishment for demonic spirits, and it underscores Jesus' authority over these malevolent forces. Both the Book of Enoch and the New Testament emphasize the concept of the abyss as the place where fallen angels and evil spirits are confined until the final judgment. This imagery is vividly portrayed in the Book of Revelation, where the abyss plays a central role in the eschatological narrative. In Revelation 21-3, we read about the confinement of Satan in the abyss during the millennial reign of Christ. And I saw an angel coming down out of heaven, having the key to the abyss, and holding in his hand a great chain. He seized the dragon, that ancient serpent, who is the devil, or Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. He threw him into the abyss and locked and sealed it over him to keep him from deceiving the nations anymore until the 1,000 years were ended. This passage echoes the fate of the fallen angels in Enoch, who are bound in the abyss as punishment for their rebellion. The abyss in both Enochic and New Testament thought represents a place of confinement and punishment for spiritual beings who have defied God's authority. It is not their final destination, however. The ultimate fate of these beings will be determined at the final judgment when they are cast into the lake of fire. Both Enoch and the New Testament emphasize the coming final judgment, in which the fallen angels, demons, and all those who have rebelled against God will face eternal punishment. This theme is central to Christian eschatology and serves as a reminder that, though evil may persist in the present age, it is not eternal. In Matthew 25:41, Jesus speaks of the final judgment in terms of eternal fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. This reinforces the idea that the fallen angels, who initiated the rebellion in Genesis 6, will ultimately face the full consequences of their actions. The lake of fire, described in Revelation 20:10, is the ultimate destination for Satan, the fallen angels, and all demonic forces. The book of Enoch also portrays a similar vision of the final judgment. In 1 Enoch 10:12-15, we read about the final fate of the watchers. And when their sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, till the day of their judgment and of their consummation, till the judgment that is forever and ever is consummated. The watchers, who once held positions of great authority, are now bound in chains, awaiting their final punishment. The judgment is described as everlasting, a fate that reflects the gravity of their rebellion and the enduring consequences of their sin. Gabriel is one of the most well-known angels in the Bible, often associated with delivering messages of great importance to key figures like Daniel, Mary, and Zechariah. However, in the book of 1 Enoch and other apocryphal writings, Gabriel's role expands to that of a divine warrior, tasked with executing judgment on the Nephilim and the fallen angels. In Christian tradition, Gabriel is frequently depicted as a messenger of God's will, but his role as a warrior angel emphasizes that he is not only a bearer of good news, but also an agent of divine justice. This aspect of Gabriel's character is explored in Enoch in Town 10 or 9 verse 10, where he is tasked with leading the forces of heaven against the Nephilim and ensuring their destruction. In 1 Enoch, Gabriel is given a critical task to destroy the Nephilim. These half-human, half-angelic giants had wreaked havoc on the earth, corrupting both humanity and the natural order. Their influence was so pervasive that God could no longer allow them to exist. Gabriel was instructed to orchestrate their destruction by turning them against one another in battle, leading to their mutual annihilation. And to Gabriel said the Lord, "Proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, and against the children of fornication, and destroy the children of fornication and the children of the watchers from amongst men. Send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle. For length of days shall they not have." Gabriel's role in this narrative reveals the multifaceted nature of divine judgment. While God could have simply wiped out the Nephilim with a single act of divine power, he instead chose to allow them to destroy each other. This method of judgment is significant because it underscores the idea that sin and rebellion often bring about their own destruction. The Nephilim, who had introduced violence and chaos into the world, were now consumed by the very forces they had unleashed. Gabriel's mission reflects the biblical theme that God often uses the wicked to bring about their own downfall. This concept is echoed in other parts of Scripture, where the enemies of God's people are defeated by their own schemes. Gabriel's role as a divine warrior has significant implications for our understanding of spiritual warfare. Throughout the Bible, angels are depicted as participants in the cosmic battle between good and evil. Gabriel, in particular, is often portrayed as one of the chief angels who confronts the forces of darkness. In Daniel 10:13, for example, Gabriel appears to the prophet Daniel and explains that he had been delayed in delivering his message because of a conflict with the prince of Persia, a demonic figure representing a spiritual power opposed to God's purposes. This brief mention of spiritual conflict reveals the reality of the unseen battle taking place in the heavenly realms. For modern believers, Gabriel's role in spiritual warfare offers a model for understanding the nature of our own spiritual battles. Just as Gabriel fought against the forces of darkness in ancient times, so too are we called to engage in spiritual warfare against the powers of evil that seek to corrupt and destroy. Paul's famous passage in Ephesians 6:12 highlights this ongoing battle. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Gabriel's role in judging the Nephilim and his participation in spiritual warfare remind us that we, too, are part of this cosmic battle. However, like Gabriel, we are not fighting on our own. We are empowered by God's strength, and victory is assured because of Christ's triumph over sin and death. Enoch, the righteous messenger who delivered God's judgment to the fallen angels, holds a unique place in both biblical and extra-biblical tradition. While his role in the canonical Bible is brief, his portrayal in 1 Enoch and other ancient texts presents him as a model of righteousness and faithfulness in the face of overwhelming evil. The Bible tells us in Genesis 5:24 that Enoch walked faithfully with God, then he was no more because God took him away. This simple statement has fascinated readers for centuries. What does it mean that Enoch walked with God? And what does it mean that God took him away? In Jewish and Christian tradition, Enoch's walk with God is interpreted as a symbol of his deep and intimate relationship with the Creator. Unlike many of his contemporaries who were consumed by sin and wickedness, Enoch remained faithful to God, and his righteousness set him apart from the rest of humanity. His walking with God is often seen as a metaphor for living a life in close communion with God, a life characterized by obedience, faith, and trust. The phrase "God took him away" has been interpreted in various ways. Some scholars believe that Enoch was taken directly to heaven without experiencing death, much like the prophet Elijah. Others interpret it more figuratively, suggesting that Enoch's life was so pleasing to God that he was spared the suffering and death that came to the rest of humanity. Whatever the case, Enoch's unique departure from the earth is seen as a reward for his faithfulness. As we've explored, the roles of Enoch and Gabriel in dealing with the fallen angels and the Nephilim giants provide profound insights into the complex dynamics between good and evil, divine judgment, and the unfolding of God's ultimate plan for humanity. These stories from the book of Genesis and the book of Enoch are not merely ancient myths. They hold timeless truths about the consequences of rebellion, the justice of God, and the assurance that in the end, good triumphs over evil. The actions of Enoch delivering God's message to the rebellious watchers and Gabriel's divine intervention in destroying the Nephilim remind us of the ongoing battle between light and darkness. These accounts serve as both a warning and a comfort, a reminder of the fate of those who defy God's will, but also an assurance that God's messengers are always at work, ensuring that His justice prevails. If this deep dive into the mysterious roles of Gabriel and Enoch has opened your eyes to a greater understanding of biblical truths and spiritual warfare, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more explorations into the hidden gems of Scripture. Let us know in the comments what part of this story intrigued you the most, and share this video with someone who needs to hear about the eternal battle between good and evil. Together, let's continue uncovering the fascinating depths of the Bible. Stay curious, stay faithful, and we'll see you in the next video.